Today, we're going to cover one of the most shocking stories we've ever stumbled upon, but you won't even believe who the culprit is until the very end. But before we get into that story, which is one of the most deceitful you'll ever hear of, viewer discretion is advised. Plus, if you are on the hunt for the most intriguing and mind-blowing crime stories, you have landed on the right channel because we feature stories weekly. So if you like that kind of thing, please shatter the like button and slam the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single riveting story. Okay, now let's begin. On June 30th, 2022, a newly minted high school graduate named Olivia Anderson joined her friends to celebrate a night out in her hometown of Nashville. Nashville has a vibrant music scene, and Olivia and her friends planned to bar hop on Broadway Street, the main area for music and partying. As she entered the Wild Horse Saloon, she could never have known what kind of fate would befall her later that night. At first, everything was going really well. Olivia and her friends were excited to see each other after finally graduating high school, and they were chatting about the next big steps in their lives, where they were planning to travel over the summer and which universities they were going to in the fall. As the girls hit the dance floor, they laughed and giggled and downed shots of pink starburst, blue kamikaze, and strawberry patches. Mixing a whole bunch of liquors amplified the excitement the girls were feeling at first, but as the night wore on, the downside of downing so much alcohol would catch up to Olivia. By 1 a.m., she wasn't feeling very well and told her friends that she was going to leave. Anna and Emma, her two best friends, tried to convince her to stay, but she was already feeling nauseous and all she wanted was to crash in her bed. Her apartment was just a few blocks off Broadway anyway, so she was a virtual hop, skip, and a jump away from home. Olivia had already had a lot of fun dancing the night away, and she didn't want to break up the party, so she would sidle away from the group and walk home alone. A couple of well-built, handsome football players had approached Anna and Emma earlier, and they were flirting back and forth, so they didn't want to leave and eventually just said, "Okay, Olivia, we'll catch up tomorrow. Be safe." Little did they know what horror lay ahead for their friend. As Olivia left the bar, detectives would track her movement from video cameras. She exited left, continued for a few blocks, and then took a right turn in the direction of her apartment. But when she got there, she couldn't enter because she had lost her key fob at some point in the night. It didn't matter though, as the night manager, 32-year-old David Johnson, was on duty and he let her in. David was known to all the residents as a handsome and friendly fellow with a big smile and a laid-back disposition. He had a reputation for helping out people and also being good at his job, keeping strangers out and the apartment building doors locked at all times. When Olivia saw David, she breathed a sigh of relief. By 1:14 a.m. when she entered the building, her head was spinning and the only thing she wanted to do was collapse on her bedroom on the third floor. It was a cozy apartment that she lived in alone. David knew her well and let her in the door, where she seemed a little flustered because her apartment keys and key fob were together on a single key ring, and they had been mislaid. David ushered her in and told her not to worry. He would accompany her upstairs and open her apartment door with the master key he had that unlocked any apartment in the building in case of an emergency. Video footage later showed David and Olivia going up the elevator and David unlocking her door and letting her in alone. David then returned to his desk in the lobby, while Olivia, it seems, took off her jeans and blouse, kicked off her high heels and collapsed onto the bed to sleep off the inevitable hangover. Exhausted, she fell asleep shortly thereafter without any idea of what horror would befall her soon afterwards. You see, David did return to his desk in the lobby after helping out Olivia, but after his good deed was done, a dark and sinister thought entered his mind. The gorgeous young woman he had brought upstairs was out cold and still feeling the full effects of the alcohol she had consumed that night. He hatched a devious plan and put it into action. First, he went to the control room to disable the cameras. Then he would take the stairway up to the third floor and enter Olivia's room. As he turned the key to enter her apartment, Olivia would have not heard him creep up next to her, but what he did next would strike horror into those who would later examine the crime scene. As the sun came up the next day, Olivia's friends slept, but by 11 a.m. Anna had awoken and made a call to Olivia's phone to make sure she had gotten home okay. Olivia didn't answer, but that wasn't unusual. Maybe she was still shaking off the effects of the night out. A few hours later, she buzzed her again, but still no answer. That's when she got worried and called Emma, who tried to contact Olivia too, unsuccessfully. The two friends then decided to meet up at Olivia's apartment and knock on her door to see if she was home. When they did, again there was no answer, and concerned, they decided to call 911 to inquire if police could perform a welfare check. Upon entering the apartment, police were left aghast. Olivia's arms were tied in a makeshift restraint to the bed. Her underwear had been torn and laid limp around her left ankle that was hanging over the side of the bed. Face down on the bed, Olivia wasn't breathing and her body felt cold to the touch. Swabs were taken and DNA was found inside of her that would prove crucial later in cracking the case. What had happened on that dark night would leave detectives in a state of utter shock. As they scanned video surveillance of the comings and goings that night, they could see David walk over to the control room. Although he attempted to disable the cameras, they in fact continued to record onto the cloud, and the footage revealed every meticulous step of his evil plan. After David thought he had disabled the cameras, he turned out the lights in the lobby, made his way through the hallway to the stairwell, and climbed 3 floors to Olivia's apartment before unlocking it silently and entering where she was surely unaware of his cruel plan. What ensued was a torturous and brutal rape and murder. Later it would emerge that David had attempted to suffocate her with a pillow after raping her, and then strangled her to death. She never stood a chance. David would be charged with rape and first-degree murder, and now serves a life sentence in the Riverbend Maximum Security Institution. So that's going to wrap up today's story, but if you haven't already, tell us what you think of David's sentence. Was it long enough? And don't forget, if you haven't already done so, to smash the like button and subscribe for more riveting crime stories.